Welcome to Inside the Birds post-game live. Geoff Mosher, Adam Caplan here as we wrap up an Eagles commanding win, convincing win. They go out west, and honestly, Adam, they pummel the Los Angeles Rams 37-20. And guess what, folks? It really wasn't 37-20. That was a little garbage time TD for the Rams. It's a 37-14 victory for the Eagles, and a lot to talk about here on the post-game show, Adam. Saquon Barkley and his two huge touchdowns, the offensive line, the defensive line, the secondary, the fact, Adam, that the Eagles have now won, what is that, 6 straight games?
Seven
straight games. And they now lead. They extended their lead in the NFC East because Washington lost. This was just an all-around dominant performance.
It was really interesting. So many subplots. So, the bad run defense showed up early in the game. And I was like, they were down, they were down, 7-0. And I'm sure people are like, what's going on here? What's going on here? Then just like that Green Bay game, when, the Green Bay went down and scored early, or they moved the ball early, then they kept them out. Well, in this game against the Rams several weeks later, actually a couple months later, boy, they got themselves together, and the defense dominated. Obviously, if we were giving stars of the game, it's Barkley's 1. Yes. The defense was number 2. Holy smokes, they're good. I'm stunned, man. This is one of those things that you never could have believed it if you were at training camp, man. The pass rush, by the way, number 1 pass rush in the NFL over the last 6 weeks, coming into tonight. I think they had, 4 sacks tonight?
Yeah.
I think that's 26 in 7 weeks. We'll get to the injuries in a minute. There are a couple that are concerning, particularly with Brandon Graham, but this is a complete team win, absolute dominance. Jake Elliott's back. I know a couple people want us to talk about it. He looked great tonight. He really did. Kudos to Tyler Brown. I know it's only 1 game, but at least he righted himself, at least for 1 game. He looked really good. And I want to give kudos to her. He made a big-time throw. People won't notice it, but it means a lot to me because I get the quarterback position. 3rd and 5, that throw late in the third quarter, it was a got-to-have-it game. Okay, you got to make that throw on 3rd and 5, and he took a 3-step drop and drove it to AJ. It was a great throw. Those are the kind of throws you have to make. This is what Irving Fryer talked about on WIP this week with Joe DeCamera and John Ritchie. Jalen doesn't like to make tight window throws. Well, that throw right there was tight window, and that's a got to have a play. So that was it's a small thing that became a big thing. And overall, Nick Sirianni talks about you can't be great without the greatness of others. Saquon Barkley was great tonight, but the offensive line, you got to give them credit. They were phenomenal blocking for the run.
Yeah, I really think this was a game that was won in the trenches. Great call on the Jalen Hurts throw. That was a huge part of the game. I think the Eagles also answered a fair question from earlier in the year, that when you lose one of your weapons, whether it's A.J. Brown, whether it's Devontae Smith, can your passing offense function? Does it take a major drop-off? Does it give the defense a major advantage? Well, no, tonight it did not in this game. I thought, the passing game was pretty good and made the plays when it needed to. Obviously, Saquon in the running game was the star of the show, but you didn't see a defunct or a deficient offense because it was missing a significant player, unlike earlier in the year. So answer the question there. And you said defense, and I completely agree that this defense played and continues to play at a level that surprises me a little bit, that shows growth. I'm going to even micro it to the defensive line, because when we talk about questions, we talk about, do the Eagles have enough of a pass rush? And do they have that one guy who's a TJ Watt? No, but it really hasn't mattered, because when Brandon Graham's playing the way he's playing at his age, you've got Josh Sweat playing pretty well, Jalen Carter, and then Milton Williams continues to me to have a really important role in the pass rush as far as pinching the pocket, getting pressure. That defensive line suffocated Matthew Stafford, and they didn't have to play. They did blitz a little bit, but they didn't have to. There were a lot of plays where they just made Matthew Stafford uncomfortable.
Yeah, in fact, Dean had that blitz, and that was a great call. I don't know if he green dogged it. I'm not sure. I don't know if it was a green dog, which would be on his own. I don't know. We'll see when we do the inside the tape. I'll talk to Greg about it on when do we do that? Wednesday or Thursday. We also have the live stream for Patreon members on Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern. Man, I cannot wait to talk to him because so much happened in this game. Cooper DeJean made plays. You mentioned BG was absolutely. He took over Like BG, I'm trying to think. Maybe you have a better memory than me. He's 36 years old. In your time covering this team in the league, have you ever seen a guy at this age do what he's doing? It's just
I
not
mean,
done.
yeah, well. I mean, Jason Peters played pretty well into his
But on
40s.
defense, I'm sorry, on defense.
Oh, on defense, I was going to say Whitworth, but no, on defense, no.
I can't think of
I
anybody.
can't think of how old is Campbell. I mean, he's not older than Brandon Graham, is he?
Who you talking about?
Calais Campbell.
Oh, that's a good one. He's up there. Calais might be older than him, but Calais has dropped off.
Yeah.
BG in his role, I mean, he had 3 quarterback hits tonight. All 3 of them were impactful.
Right. I'm not old enough to remember how good Darrell Green was the last few years, because I think he played till he was 40.
He did.
And that's even more impressive because he's a cornerback. I mean, right? Yeah. And London Fletcher played pretty late too. But no, I mean, your point is well taken. It is very rare to see a defensive lineman, a defensive player who can play that well. And honestly, I think he was their best pass rusher this night. Like, it's not always that way, but he makes smart plays too. He just knows where to be.
Yeah, Milt Williams, Uncle Milty, was awesome tonight, number 93. Got to give him a shout out. He was fantastic. Sweaty had one. He got a sack tonight. Actually, they had 5 sacks. Well, they had not 4. They had 5 sacks tonight. Milt Williams had 2. He was great. Jalen Carter crushed the pocket. It won't show on the stat sheet. He did have a forced fumble, but he makes so many plays. He helps others. It was a complete team effort. By the way, Vic Fangio was damn good. Can we just say that?
Yeah, it's finally probably good for the Eagles to finally have the real Vic Fangio and not a template.
They don't have the fake guys anymore. Sorry, guys. Gannon had 70 sacks 2 years ago, but I'll take this one, man. This is pretty. It's such a complete effort. And look, I know when they went after Isaiah Rodgers, and it's funny, you picked Nakua to player of the game, but you picked the Rams, and I picked the Eagles. Nakua killed him. Oh my God, he's tough.
You know what though? He killed him in a way that wasn't. First of all, the Rams had no third down conversion, so he only kind of killed them on misdirection, play action. You're going to give those up. That's going to happen. You know, he only killed them in a sense that he had a lot of yards. He didn't make any profound. If he had caught that one-hander on third down, then he would have, but he didn't. So he only just got yards. He didn't really break their backs in a way. But go ahead.
God, they were 0 for 8. And how about the Eagles? 9 for 15, 60%, which is outstanding. If you're over 50% on that many third downs, you're doing a phenomenal job. The design of the run game is unbelievable. And I can't tell you enough on Saquon Barkley, folks. If you went through all of Saquon's tape over the last 3 or 4 years and you boiled down what his problems were, he didn't make unblocked defenders miss enough. By the way, I think he made more guys miss tonight than he did with the Giants last season. Okay, he was ridiculous tonight. This is 302 total yards. This guy's a special football player. But again, the line gives him that chance. Remember, yards before contact, which is a big time offensive line stat. Yes, Saquon's numbers are great before contact, but it's because of the offensive line.
I agree. He was not touched. I mean, he did a good job of getting skinny through the hole on both of the 70-yard touchdown runs. He followed his blocks really well, but I don't think he was touched on either one, right?
I don't think so, but I also want to give him credit for making those guys miss. And his jump
cut. He makes him miss, no doubt. Yeah.
The jump cut is just absurd. And it's not just the jump cut. He makes guys, and making an unblocked defender miss means in space, the guy's not blocked. He makes a move. He makes a juke move left, and it goes right. It's just ridiculous what this guy's doing. And also, the kudos also to the receivers. Johnny Wilson, the blocking receivers in there. You know, that's why he's there. He did a good job tonight. I think Covey actually was on the first big run. I think Covey was in there, believe it or not.
How about that?
Yeah. But overall, what can we say? It's a complete team effort. And I'm kind of laughing because the Eagles had 24 first downs and the Rams had 23. Well, folks, trust me. They got a lot of garbage first downs late in the game, man. The Eagles defense was phenomenal. I know they had a couple hiccups in the first half, but they are super resilient, this defense. That's the other part of this team. Right when you think, defense, what's wrong? They bring it. They get it cleaned up. They clearly communicate well. You can't play a perfect game, okay? It's impossible. But they're so resilient and mentally tough. That's the other part of it.
Yeah, I got to be honest. I keep waiting for, and I thought this week just happened. It might be the week, right? I keep waiting for sort of the rookies to become rookies or the defense. And you mentioned it. It looked after the first two possessions like it might be that kind of game where the Eagles just weren't going to wrap up. They weren't going to tackle well. They were going to get fooled by the misdirection that the Rams throw because that's how Nakua was catching his passes. I thought this might be the game, and after the second or third possession, they tightened up, they cleaned it up, and they were assignment sound. And I don't know what's left for them to prove. Obviously, you got to prove it every week in the NFL, right? Because then you got to play the Ravens, and then at some point you have to play the Steelers. But the point being is your bigger body of work speaks for you. It doesn't mean you can't go out and play poorly and lose a game. But I think this defense has shown that it's going to be pretty tough from here on out. I'm not saying they're never going to have a bad game. And again, I thought it might be this one. It wasn't. Could be next week. It could be 3 weeks. Who knows? But I think you feel pretty confident about what they've been able to accomplish and what they can accomplish going forward. I guess what I'm trying to say is I don't see a sudden fall off where Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean look like rookies, or even if they go up against a good offensive line, let's say it's the Lions or the Steelers, right, that they're going to stop putting pressure on the quarterback because of it. They may have a bad game because everybody does, but I do think in general they've shown that they're going to be a very competitive defense.
The only problem is if BG's out a while, I'm going to scrap what you just said. He's
well, of course, yeah.
He was unfreaking believable tonight. He kind of took over for a bit. I don't know how many plays, but it just seemed like he was making a big play after big play. And I know the teammates are going over to him. We don't know. People waiting for an update because they don't have one yet. It just happened. So I'm concerned. I would be concerned just based on when I replayed it. I've on FiOS, I could keep replaying the play and it didn't look good. So arm injury, because his ability to play inside a nickel, his technique and his ability to break down protection. I don't know if it's gotten better. He's made a modicum of improvement. He definitely is getting a little bit better, but not significantly better, but he's getting better. He's just not, he's not that skilled. He's just not. Sweaty's doing he's had a good bounce back season, but it's tough without BG. I'm not going to speculate on how long it could be, if it's going to be long at all. We don't know yet, but he was honestly in the second quarter. I think it was the second quarter where he made so many plays. It was just wow. And, just overall, Zach Bond showed up, as the game progressed. It was kind of quiet early and he showed up. You're right on the young kids. Mitchell and DeJean are making plays. It was a great all-around team effort. There's no doubt about it. Both sides of the football, as we mentioned, the kicker's back. This is just one of those games where you go, wow, this is pretty impressive on the road. And I had a couple of friends text me, said, "You can't believe how loud it is here." I'm like, I get it, man. With Eagle fans.
Yeah. By the way, BG moves into third place all time on the Eagles' career sack list. Now, if you're third place all time on any franchise sack list, that's pretty special, no matter what franchise it is. But when you're third place all time on the Eagles' career sack list, when you know that the company you're in is Reggie White and Trent Cole and Hugh Douglas and Clyde Simmons, right? Jerome Brown. I mean, there's just an endless number of great pass rushers in Eagles history. So congratulations to Brandon. And I agree with you. He's been a friend of the show, great guy, and hopefully everything will be good. And you're right. Again, we don't want to speculate, but if he's out for a while, that could turn the defense a little bit or just weaken you just a little bit, in that regard where you run into a team that has your number that day because you don't have Brandon Graham. I think a lot of the plays Brandon Graham makes isn't just because he's good, but because he's smart. He's seen everything. He almost he out-leverages, he out-flanks guys, especially on the edge. I'm talking as a run defender half the time, or even when they try to move a quarterback out. He just is always in the right spot, and he knows how to attack tackles because he's just seen everything in his years of playing. So there's just not much that you could physically, Trent Williams could block him, but he's always going to know where to be, how to do it, correct use of hands, everything like that. So good for him. And let's talk about a couple of things that went on in the game. So I actually think, Adam, the Eagles were almost dominating this game more than it already looks like. And if you're wondering what it looks like, the Eagles have 481 total yards. The Rams had 290. So they basically outgained the Rams by 200 yards.
By the way, Hurts, I just want to say, sorry, Barkley had over half of those yards.
Yeah, Barkley had 255 on the ground and then another 47.
302.
This was like a Brian Westbrook type game with the rushing and the receiving, except, 270-yard touchdowns and just an unbelievable level of performance that I didn't think I was ever going to see again after Brian Westbrook. But yeah, that was unbelievable. But so they dominated this game, Adam, right? But they were, honestly, they were up, 20-7. And somehow in the third quarter, it's a one-possession game because Stafford throws one deep to Nakua. They throw the flag, and then they get the Robinson 2-yard touchdown after that. I kind of thought – I'm not one to come down on the officials. I think there's always bad calls on both sides and everything. But holy cow, I really didn't think that was that bad of a it was on Isaiah Rodgers, right?
And honestly,
on TV they showed James Bradbury, by the way, which was a big laugh.
Hilarious. The rule is very simple. If you restrict contact, it has to be a penalty. There's no debate. It's a penalty.
But did you think he restricted it?
Didn't. But he didn't.
I didn't. Right.
Yeah. In fact, on Discord, we had a great Discord chat tonight. We were talking about that. I know the rule like the back of my hand. It's textbook. When you restrict movement, it doesn't matter where the ball's on the field. It could be within 5 yards, past 5 yards. You can't do that. However, if you make contact, but it's either a hand check or let's say you touch the guy's waist, but you don't restrict, they should not call it. And
that's what I thought. It looked like his hand just kind of maybe touched his – not even hooked, just like grazed on it.
I know. It's listen, I know they have to call it in real time. This is why Bill Belichick wanted the ability to call it to challenge any flag. It'll never happen. No, the league will never agree to that. The competition committee will never agree to it, but I understand it. Because think about it. Let's say that cost them the game. Obviously, it didn't because Eagles killed them. But what if it does?
That made it a one-possession game, right? In a game that the Eagles were kicking their ass up and down the field the whole time. And that play almost, or at least threatened to turn the tide there. Because to your point, if they don't make that call and if the Rams have the punt and the Eagles do the exact same thing and go down and Kenny Gainwell gets his touchdown, then all of a sudden it's 27-7, right? And then, maybe Jake Elliott kicks a field goal 30-7. That's a totally different ball game. And it's been a bad year for the Zebras, to be honest with you, especially in these primetime games. There have been a lot of missed face masks and things like that. You had Al Michaels screaming about it. Yeah. It's been a bad year, and that was not a good call. I don't usually spend time on it.
But kudos to replay assist for the A.J. Brown touchdown. There was clearly a touchdown. And look, Nick Sirianni should not have to throw the red challenge flag for it's just ridiculous. They should have seen that. Brown took two and a half, actually took 3 steps and caught that. Come on. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, the funny thing is I agreed with you. I thought it was clearly a touchdown, but I had in my mind, I'm like, they're gonna say this is not a touchdown. They're gonna say some kind of didn't complete the process because the ball was out of it. In my mind, they were going to figure out a way to make that not a touchdown, and I was shocked when they actually.
Thank God they overturned it. Thank God they did. But look, in the end, this is a dominant performance. We'll just a couple more notes on offense. The time for Hurts to throw overall is really, really good. Now, Jalen in the first half, there were times we just held on the ball too long, and what happens is he has this habit of he'll drop back. He doesn't like what he sees. And I'll move around a little bit inside in the middle of the pocket, and he invites the contact or the rush. And then what he does, he's got this superhuman ability to outrush the rush, which he did a bunch tonight in the first half. And you give him credit for that, but that's you really want to get rid of the football. That's just something they have to continue to work on. And then, as I said, the second half, he actually had 2 great plays. He had the 3rd and 5 to Brown, and there was another play that he did a really good job of delivering the football on time, and he just has to be more on time. That's the one they have to keep working with him. A couple notes here. Ainias Smith, not only did he start, he was their 3rd receiver tonight. Like that, they used. I don't know what we won't get the snap counts until early in the morning, but he was there when they played 11. He was in there. So was Johnny Wilson as a blocker. They used him to do that. Dotson was technically their number 2, but they really didn't use him. And the other thing with Dotson is he's got to do a better job playing through contact. He gets knocked around a lot. That is a real problem.
Well, that was the book that we said on him, why it didn't work in Washington. He didn't play through contact very well.
Yeah,
But
one
I
of the
agree with
reasons,
you. Yeah.
amongst the reasons why Washington won them. But this line, I'll tell you what, man. I know people say Detroit's right up there, and I don't doubt that. Becton's worked out at right guard. Lane and Mailata. See what happens when Mailata gets back. No offense to Fred Johnson. Did a yeoman's job. Did a very nice job.
Yep.
Now, Dickerson has had a very good season. So, yeah, does he have 1 or 2 plays per game where you go, okay, what was that? Yeah, maybe he does, but he's really, really good. Jurgens is having a breakout season. AJ Brown is trying harder to block on the run. I've noticed that. We need to highlight that a little bit more. We'll ask Greg to Cosell to do that when he breaks down the tape. Does he notice anything? I'm gonna call him tomorrow and ask him just to say, hey, if you see anything, please make a note of it on the receivers block, because it's a real big thing. I know, talking to the Rams, it is like they drill the hell out of their receivers blocking for the run game. And we just rarely talk about it. And you can't have receivers who won't try to block, So
right. He used to be really bad. Now it doesn't stand out that he's not giving effort. So that's good. Saquon Barkley, an MVP candidate? Got to be, right?
Oh, hell yeah. Right now.
Is he the front runner now?
Yes, because Lamar did not play well against Pittsburgh. Isn't it crazy? This is like ridiculous. I know it's happened before in other stadiums. So the 2 teams are playing in SoFi. The 2 away teams are playing each other in Baltimore next weekend.
Oh yeah, how about that?
Baltimore tomorrow night, and the Eagles tonight. Hey, the Eagles get home first. The Eagles get home first. Anyway.
Yep. All right. So Barkley MVP candidate. Let's talk about the evil genius that is Nick Sirianni. All right. I'm still kind of like, it's funny because I was telling a friend, I'm like, this is going to wind up working out for the Eagles, and Nick's going to look like a genius.
Oh, by the way, real quick, I got to stop you. Brandon Graham, Andrew DeCheco said Brandon Graham just said he's out for the season with torn triceps. Jesus Christ. Sorry, folks.
Oh man. All right. Well,
thanks for the people put it in. Thank you. Yeah.
Great job by Andrew DeCheco getting that too. That sucks,
man. Dude, that's devastating because we know about the leader he is. We all love him, but he has been so good. And you saw Jalen Hunt, by the way, playing in the first half.
Yep.
And that had nothing to do with he was in the game well before BG got hurt, but that's. Man, and by the way, when we were talking about BG, I do want to mention this. His urgency to rise to the occasion is just something. That's the other thing I was searching for, is his ability to rise to the occasion and be urgent was just amazing tonight, and it's a shame. God damn, that's terrible.
All right, well, look at this situation then, because they're without Bryce Huff for several weeks because of the wrist surgery.
Yeah, that's right.
So now without Brandon Graham for the rest of the season, God, that is just cruel.
Right.
But really, they're going to have to ask a lot of Josh Sweat and Nolan Smith as your starting ends. And then really now you're looking at Jalen Hunt as the number 3, and they just released one of their edge guys on the practice squad, David Anaya, so he's not even there anymore.
Yeah,
I don't really know. Now, we've already seen Vic using Zach Bond on the line of scrimmage.
Yeah. Did tonight.
He's been doing it for 5-6 weeks now, where he's not started. He starts off in a stack position, then at the last minute creeps down to become the 5th man on line of scrimmage. But that is a situational thing. That's not an necessarily like, this is what I want to do all the time type thing. He likes to do that and then drop somebody in a sim pressure as well. So Vic's going to have to really get on his scheming hat here and figure out how he's going to get pass rush, losing maybe arguably his most consistent pass rusher all year. Yeah,
and the edges, they're really not ends; they're really edges. Is Sweat and Smith, and Smith has been starting anyway, but he's an okay player. I mean, he definitely has made some improvement, but he's just not where they need him to be yet.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's ever capable of playing like a first-round pick, but at least he's made some improvement. That you feel good about that. Sweaty's had a bounce-back year, but this is tough. It's one thing if BG was only playing like 12 to 15 snaps a game and it was kind of like a good, goodbye tour. That's not been the case. Particularly lately. He's been so good lately. Oh, man. As you said earlier, you're absolutely right. He's really good against the run, very underrated at it. Oy, it's a tough one, man.
What is it about this Eagles team that does so well, then goes out to LA and loses? This is like Carson Wentz a couple of years ago on the way to the Super Bowl.
7 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It just feels like yesterday, but it feels like something about going to LA that really, this
Tough one,
team,
man.
right? The
Yeah.
Rams. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's bad. All right. So I was discussing this sort of evil genius idea by Nick Sirianni, which was to, they get a third down stop, right? And they get a penalty on the play. And instead of declining the penalty, well, although he did initially decline the penalty, apparently, and then he changed his mind. He accepted the penalty and made them do third down again, longer, which, all right, let's just stop right there. Let's pretend we don't know the result.
Sure.
It's really not the smartest thing to do because even though it's third and long, you give up they would have kicked the field goal there. So I get your thinking might be, well, even if we stop them on third and long, they'll kick a field goal anyway. So, but maybe we get a sack or a turnover. I get that thinking, but you could also give up a pass for first down and then a touchdown.
Yep.
So I don't know that the risk is worth the reward 100% of the time, or the reward is worth the risk 100% of the time. But it worked out for Nick Sirianni because not only does Matthew Stafford get sacked, but then the kicker misses the field goal.
Oh, Cardi, yeah, boy. And it's funny because they were just they weren't even close to blocking. He just pushed it right. It looked like it was going to go in, and then it went right. It just pushed right.
Do you think that was Nick's thinking? Like, I think if we make them make a third and long attempt, that there's a good chance we get a sack here, and then we push them out of field goal range, or we make it
hard to say, but it was third and 13 if I recall correctly, without looking at the game book. Because I remember watching them like, wow, okay, this is interesting. Now I know their defense really turned things around after the first quarter. The coaches always tell me like it's all how you feel during the game. You can have the chart. Now I don't know what the chart says at 13. Like, are you gonna decline the penalty? You know what I mean? I just don't know what that would be. But you also, when you're making that decision, you have to go by how you feel about how their defense is playing. Boy, their defense rebounded well.
Yep.
They're unbelievably resilient, man. Just when you think, they're bad series, 7-0. Boy, what's going on with this team? We haven't seen this in a while. And then they buckled down and they oh, by the way, we should mention this. And again, Jonah Jackson didn't start at center.
Mm-hmm.
Bo Limmer started. That helped. Carter got him. Milton Williams got in the middle. Warren McClellan at 71. Go ahead.
I was going to say they took turns on that middle of the Rams offensive line.
Yeah. McClellan, the right tackle, play with the Georgia guys. And Joe Noteboom didn't start tonight because he had an injury, and they took advantage of it. That's part of the 5 sacks. But I just thought that they called a great game. That when they decided to blitz, which again wasn't a lot, I'm sure it was more than they did against Washington. It was timely. They did not let Stafford get very comfortable. They really didn't. I mean, yeah, did he hit Nakua on some? Yes. They did what's called that burst motion. I love that burst motion. I don't know why more teams don't use it. They line up as a tight split, then they burst, a little bit to the right or to the left, however they're aligned. But overall, this is not an easy offense to go against, and they did a very good job.
Yeah, really impressed. Very impressed. I do want to also give a hat tip to Kellen Moore. I thought the screen game finally looked, obviously to Barkley. Whether it was screen or throw to the flat, either way, they found Barkley with blockers in front of him, and Barkley makes people miss like nobody else. He's a superhuman. And AJ just breaks tackles. But, we always talk about AJ's – the Eagles must have the most superhuman athletes in the league on one team.
His ability to have defenders fall off of him, it's absurd. I wish there was a stat. I know he's all muscled up and everything, but it's ridiculous. I don't know why they try to tackle him high. Tackle his legs, man. What are you doing? Why are you tackling his arms? You're gonna fall off.
He's like a bowling ball, man.
He really is an amazing football player. And I know that they didn't have to throw the ball a lot. Again, Hurts low pass attempts, didn't turn it over. Again, that's great. You got to feel good about it. Braden Mann only had one punt, by the way. It was 54 yards. The net was 43, but special teams were better. Coverage was pretty good. This is, again, it's just to sum it up so we can move on. Overall, excellent team win, marred by BG's injury, and it's just heartbreaking. Yeah, it's a tough deal, but as you said, guys are going to have to step up. Jalen Hunt is going to have to he's going to have to grow up real quick, and Jeremiah Washburn he's charged with this one. He's going to have to figure out a way with his defense. Clint Hurt's going to have to help. Vic is going to have to swallow his pride. He might have to blitz a little bit more than he wants to. I know he hates doing it. He doesn't hate to do it quite as much as Jim Schwartz, but he's close.
He is close.
Risk averse. I mean, blitz averse. Excuse me. But overall, this is a great win, man. And by the way, how great is Sirianni on the road? Now, I think he's, without looking, he might be 23-9 in the regular season.
It's hard to find any statistics. I know people have their issues with Sirianni. We've had our issues with his play calls, certainly not play calls, game management calls, certainly at times. But it's really hard to argue with the raw data, as they say. The wins and losses, the wins on the road versus the losses. It's hard to argue with it. He's got the record to show. He knows what he's doing. Either that or he just lets his talent do the work. But I don't really believe that. I think that, I think coaching is significant and vital.
Yeah, I mean,
look, you can't discount it.
You're right. You game management. Andy had his issues. Okay, and obviously Andy might wind up being the second best head coach in NFL history. I know Belichick and Brady. Okay, Andy kind of created Patrick Mahomes, to a degree. We have to say that. But the bottom. Oh, by the way, the people who think BG is going to retire, I know he put it out there that he plans to do it. I don't know if the Eagles are going to just let him retire like this.
I've heard him sort of backpedaling on that a little bit.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy is. Again, the reason why I brought this up to start the show is because that was a great call, by the way, on Darryl Green. Holy shit, I didn't think of that. Excuse my language, but that was a great call. He's a Hall of Famer, by the way. But it's an anomaly. Other than the quarterback position, maybe punter, long snapper, kicker, to be able to play at an elite level, or at least even if you play elite for 4 weeks, 5 weeks, it's just you don't do that. It's 36,
right?
It was, when did he tear his? Was it his Achilles? Brandon, what did he tear? ACL or Achilles? He did both. Did he do both?
Oh man, now I don't remember. I know it was his knee. It was just his knee.
Okay, ACL.
He tore his ACL. Yeah.
Okay. Right. But so to move on here, let's not put PG out to pasture. Let's just see what happens, because especially if they get close, if they make a run, because I remember talking to people close to Kelsey. Even if they won the Super Bowl, because they were who knew how things would regress a little bit. But you just never know, man. What's in the heart of a champion? You just never know, man. It sometimes you can't walk away, but I don't want him to walk away hurt, like the feeling like really beat up, not be able to pick up his kids. Talking to some veteran, retired players over the years, it breaks my heart. I mean, you and I saw Jim McMahon at the Super Bowl, man. That was really tough. He did our show, right?
Yes, he did. He was on with us. He was great. By the way, Brandon Graham tore his knee up as a rookie, but he did tear his Achilles later in his career. I can't remember what year. It might have been 2021 because he only played 2 games that year.
Yeah, it was early, right? Was it the Niners game early?
That was the Achilles. That was
Nick's first year. That was the one when Hurts threw the ball down to Quez Watkins for like a 97 yards or something. Well, I don't know what the hell. It was
a 91-yard pass completion, and they didn't score.
Yeah.
And they didn't score at all.
Oh God, I remember that. I remember you couldn't believe it. I do remember that.
It was like a historical stat. Like it's only happened in like 4 times in NFL history.
I remember you being blown away by that. Yeah, you were embarrassed. Like, how does that happen, right?
How do you get a 91-yard pass and you can't even score? Not even a field goal.
Let's put the BG injury aside. We'll deal with it this week, and we'll figure out kind of what it's going to look like for their defensive line. But this is a phenomenal team win. That's the cool thing about this win. Specials were good.
Yep.
Quarterback made plays when he had to, ran the ball really well. The receiver, look, A.J. Brown had a great game. No Devontae Smith. Should have gotten the ball more, but again, they only threw the ball 22 times. Offensive line dominant. Barkley, best player in the league right now. D-line brought it. They're bringing it. Young kids are doing a great job. They got 2 studs. They got 2 kids, and Mitchell and DeJean is like, we haven't seen this in years. folks, enjoy this. This is pretty special what they got going on. Just savor it. They don't have a game till Sunday at Baltimore, but it won't be easy. But Baltimore also will be coming off for a short week.
That's right. And we'll have it all covered this week on the Inside the Birds platform. That's going to do it for Inside the Birds post-game live. For Adam Caplan, I'm Geoff Mosher. Thanks for watching. Catch you on the next one.